Hi and welcome to show 94. We're back in the shed after last week's debacle in the record store.
Yep.
Where we look like a pair of idiots in a glass box. David Blaines. We are lucky this week to be joined by the very nice Mr. Chris Reed.
There you
welcome
go.
To the shed, mate.
Believe me, he is actually a man of many words.
We've got a nice interview coming up with him in a little bit. It's just him sitting in the chair twiddling his thumbs, trying to pull stickers off.
Exactly, yeah. Riveting it is.
As always, when we have a guest, it's his selection, and we're starting with Chris.
Yeah, what is this?
This is Ritmos Colombianos, which is the first 7-inch single that I did for Breaking Bread. And the reason I'm here to pedal my wares. It's also track number 4 on this album, Small Steps.
Tell us about the album.
It's out on March the 3rd on Breaking Bread. And,
so yesterday?
Yesterday.
It's out yesterday on Breaking Bread.
It's out now.
And on the album you can find the full-length version. This is the 7-inch version. You can find a full-length edit of it. And
as you can hear, it's an absolute cracking track. So you need to go out and get this CD because it is fantastic. Yeah. And it even opens out. Look at that. And it's got all sorts of lovely gubbins in it and wicked artwork and so forth.
And it's the Kingsland Road, isn't it?
Yeah, the artwork is by a friend of mine called Max Brolly, and it features the real life shops and businesses of Kingsland Road between Dalston and Old Street where I live.
So there you go.
Yeah. The CD itself has got the Rio Cinema.
Yeah, and the Rio Cinema there on the CD.
There you go.
There you go.
Lovely, lovely project.
Yeah, no, cracking at 7. When did the 7 actually come out?
It's got to be about 18 months ago, maybe a little bit more actually now. Yeah.
So you have been a busy boy because obviously we've got a few more 7s to play after this one.
Yeah.
So there we go. But what we're going to do now, we're going to go to some of Chris's favourite tunes and play a few of them. There's a bit of break to the beat action going on as well here today. So yeah, we've got Joe Thomas coming up next. Here we go.
Ooh, what was that here, Chris?
Well, Joe Thomas is no stranger to the shed. I think we've actually played a couple of his tracks in the past, and this one is.
It's a track called Mike. Which is my dad's name.
Oh, there you go. Hello, Mike. Hey.
Mike Reed, no less.
Oh, nice.
I never realised that.
Yeah, it's an amazing album, and you probably played before the Thank You for Letting Me Be Myself, which is an amazing record. But this one I pulled out because it's been sampled by a main source, and that's I think not commonly known.
No,
fact.
I didn't know. I've had this album for years.
Yeah.
But,
which I only realised fairly recently, and scarcely spoken about that.
Well, there you go. Educational is what you get in here, folks.
Yeah, little nugget of flute there on Pieces Not the Words to Play.
Yeah, which we will be playing next. Cracking tracks.
So we're going to hear Joe Thomas.
Are we going to hear the Joe Thomas flute?
In a bit, yeah, if we can remember where it comes in. It's somewhere in amongst the sort of scratch section at the end, but
who cares? It's a great tune anyway, so yeah.
For a little while.
Yeah, and as I pointed out last week, I actually found the tape of this in a charity shop. So yeah, if anybody wants to buy it, it's in the shop.
Could be tempted actually.
Yeah. No worries. It's now saved.
Come on, Joe.
Come on, Joe. Where are you?
Talk amongst yourselves while we wait for Joe.
Here you go.
There you go. Fantastic. It was worth the wait, wasn't it there, folks?
Sorry. It sounds better when you play it, you know, from the beginning.
So this is Chris Reed, and this is called...
It's called Dub Afrique. It's just a B-side of a track called Son d'Afrique. And on the album you can find a brand new remix never previously released of Son d'Afrique. It's like an extended version with loads of extra percussion, and well, it's a new track entirely actually. It's same horns and a couple of bits, but a new track. And then you can also find the 7-inch version of this one we're listening to now.
Cool. That's fantastic.
The album that was out yesterday.
Indeed. Just sort of a little bit of a twist on the Afrobeat sounds.
Yeah,
like
but it's really good, I have to say, because you still got those. You know,
percussively, it's kind of in the same neighbourhood, but
exactly
a bit of a different feel to it.
And you can see why Breaking Bread is actually putting it out, because it does fit in with that mould of sort of like stuff that they've been putting out with that. It's almost b-boy friendly still.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
like all of the sevens have had at least one track that's sort of like quite heavy drums at that sort of b-boy, even if it's not like a classic b-boy thing, like at that sort of up tempo kind of thing.
But you could put this down and people would still get down to it. You know what I mean?
I'd like to think so.
Yeah, I think I will later on. You know what I mean? Badly. That's a wicked track. Really, really good.
Cool.
Well, this actually moves right nicely into interview with this lovely chap. So here we go.
Welcome, Chris Reed, Substance Music.
Nice to see you.
How you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks.
Finally made it in.
Yeah, it's only been about a year.
Yeah, but, about for a while.
Yeah, but you've made it in.
Found an excuse to
to get that really long trek on the Central Line to deepest, darkest Middlesex.
Yeah, on the train all that way, you feel like one of the warriors.
You've got to get home yet.
Yeah, well, I'll send you a text, let you know.
Yeah, we want to know you're safe.
We do worry. We do worry.
Concerns. Yeah.
Anyway, welcome.
Thanks.
And glad to have you in. Obviously, you've got your album coming out very, very shortly.
Yeah,
and,
next Monday.
But that's not why you're here.
In fact, well, yeah, maybe now.
March the 3rd, if you're watching this on
March the 4th, yeah. But yeah, so I mean, obviously that's great. But obviously, we want to hear a little bit about your history and where you came from and how you got to where you are now. So, how did it all start?
You mean in terms of DJing or just music in general?
Music in general, like you know.
Yeah, I think same story as most people really. Just was in liked music growing up, and then got to a certain age. I guess like sort of around the time when I sort of went to secondary school, just used to swap tapes with kids at school in the playground or whatever.
Yeah.
People recommending stuff to you and borrowed a couple of hip-hop tapes off kids who had older brothers or what have you, and you start to understand a bit more about it. And then there was sort of decent stuff on the radio then as well. It's like when Westwood was still on Capital, and there was a few pirate stations that played decent stuff.
Whereabouts were you in London, or were you
I grew up in Hertfordshire, so sort of North London suburbs really.
So you could still catch those.
You could get stations from London, and there was a few local ones as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, you just just trading tapes and stuff, and then as soon as I had enough money to buy records, just got into buying records. And it was mostly at that time, it was kind of hearing stuff on Capital or on Westwood or whatever, and you'd write down the names, and then you'd go in a shop and ask if they had it, and most times they didn't, and occasionally they did, and whatever they did had you bought. And
what sort of stuff was it that you were first introduced to, if you like?
I guess the first stuff was like the classic late '80s stuff, Eric B. and Rakim and the LL Cool J's and the Run DMCs and all that sort of stuff. But I think the stuff that I got really excited about was like that very tail end of the '80s, early '90s, when people first started to really sample jazz on a bigger scale, and that's when I got kind of really excited about it.
Yeah.
And it was a mixture of stuff, not just jazz, but obviously, the Tribe Called Quest, all that sort of stuff. But
was it because you were into jazz in the first place, or was it just that it was something that was different from what you'd been hearing in hip hop? It was just.
I just think it had everything that hip hop, everything you already liked about hip hop, but then another musical element to it that just made it that bit more special. I mean, my dad was into jazz and stuff, but I didn't really, at that point, probably didn't really see the connection. It was just certain artists that were doing things a certain way, and it's not just limited to jazz, just anyone that was doing something a bit different, like X-Clan, and they just had a really unique sound that was that appealed, and that's when I kind of really started buying records more, and saving that money to get a little trip into London on a Saturday and go to Soho and
do the rounds,
go to the shops.
Were you predominantly buying the hip hop tracks, or you been looking for the tracks that made those tracks up, effectively looking for the breaks and things?
Later I came to that. I think at that point I hadn't really grasped the idea of how it was made. Like the odd thing kind of switched the light on. I think like my mum had a certain number of like Motown records and stuff, and I remember having that first CPO album and going for my mum's Motown stuff, and there was that Isaac Hayes Joy drum break, and I was like, oh, that's that bit from CPR, you know, and then you start to like, hang on a minute, you know, you start making the connections. But I don't think it's till I was about 15, 16, I met a guy. I just actually reconnected with him on Facebook. There was a guy who lived near me, who was quite a bit older than me, and he'd been DJing quite a bit, and he was quite matey with the guys from Gutter Snipes.
Okay.
And he was making a bit of music, but he just had loads of you know, like loads of Isaac Hayes records and Sly and the Family Stone and all this stuff, and like just hanging out around his house on an afternoon, you know, having a rummage, and started to piece together
an education.
Yeah, exactly. Just started to piece together what was what, and then so.
I mean, talking about say Gutter Snipes and stuff like that. I mean, back when you were getting tapes and stuff like that, was there much of the UK hip hop, or was it predominantly the US stuff that you were initially listening to?
I was quite heavily into like the Cold Sweat stuff. I really liked the sort of Britcore sound a lot.
Yeah.
So I bought all the early Blade records, bought all the early Gunshot records, you know, Vinyl Solution, and a lot of Cold Sweat stuff. Big fan of Son of Noise as well.
Of course.
But yeah, I'd say by and large I was buying the US stuff.
Sure.
And I was also pretty much predominantly, even sort of before I started really DJing in clubs, I was predominantly buying hip hop records to DJ with, you know, in order to make mixtapes and that sort of stuff.
Sure.
You know.
Okay. So you were actually sort of like, you had your decks already, did you?
Yeah. I mean, I started buying records when I was about 11 or 12, but it wasn't until I was about 15 that I actually got turntables, and it was more as a result like, oh, I've bought loads of records, I should probably do something with them.
Yeah.
And that seemed like the natural thing to do. And a kid at school had, you know, bought decks and didn't really get on with it, and was like, oh, I'm thinking about selling them. So I was just like, okay.
I know, that's exactly what happened to me as well.
I'd never really, you know, I was only like in my early teens, so I'd never really seen anyone DJ, and it was like, you know, much less of that stuff on TV. Like, there was nothing to really learn from. So I literally just bought them and was, okay.
What do I do with this?
Put a record on, put another record on, and sort of, you know, trying to work out what does the headphone, you know, like I literally had no clue.
Yeah.
Self-taught, baby, that's the best way.
Yeah, and then just after, you know, hours of rummaging around in my bedroom, putting out records and trying things out, eventually started to understand how it works, and then that was it, you know. So,
I mean, how soon into the 90s did you actually start DJing for real, instead of you know, just being like a bedroom DJ?
It wasn't really till I left home. So when I was 18, left home to go to college, and yeah, just like obviously around loads of places to go out, and like around a whole bunch of new people my age who were into music.
Yeah.
So it was like, okay, well, let's DJ somewhere then, you know.
Yeah.
I'll go and find some other kids who are into DJing, and there was older kids who were already in their second or third year at college who'd started club nights. So I was just kind of giving them tapes or CDs or whatever, and saying, you know, can I do the thing here? And yeah, and that's how Substance started.
Right. So
I mean, it was actually, people think that it was me that started it, but it was actually a couple of kids who were older than me had done a party at the very end of the year before I started college under that name.
Right.
And they were into all sorts of stuff. So they were like, there was one guy who was really into sort of like the US kind of deep house and garage sort of stuff. There's another guy who was into like dub and a lot of like Jamaican music, and it was just like an anything goes kind of thing. So I kind of came along, and at that point I was into hip hop, but I was also quite a lot into like the, you know, like acid jazz and funk and all that sort of stuff.
Which was big at the time as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So I kind of gave them a tape with a load of that stuff on it, and they were like, oh, you should come and play at one of the parties. And we did a party together with I think Andy Smith DJs.
Oh really?
Yeah. So that's like, it's like mid-90s.
Right, okay.
And then then the focus of the night kind of changed less towards the sort of US house stuff and more towards the anything goes eclectic sort of thing. And
which is kind of the best party, I think, you know what I mean, because
it was really good times.
You get to appreciate everything, and you get to attract all sorts of a crowd, you know.
I miss that, because at the time it was pretty much like, you know, now there's like really niche nights for loads of different like micro subgenres of this, that and the other. But at that time it was kind of like, well, there was mainstream clubs where they played pop music, and then there was house clubs, and then there was just nights where they played loads of other stuff. Like there was drum and bass nights, obviously, but there was a definite scene. Like the Blue Note was good for it in London, but then like Athletico and the Medicine Bar and those sort of places in Birmingham were just like these places where there were these nights where you might hear like you know, a really good Detroit techno record, and then you might hear a John Coltrane record, and then you might hear a Bookham record, and then you might hear a Craig Mack record or whatever, and it's
almost like going back to New York in the 70s, like
but it was amazing,
or something like that.
Sometimes it was disjointed and sometimes it didn't work, but most of the time it was just like that adventure of not knowing what you were going to get, and I really liked.
Yeah,
I think it's a shame that tradition sort of died out somewhere along the way, but anyway, that was what the night was like really when it first started.
Maybe me and Brad can resurrect one.
And then as time went by, like the older guys who kind of started it up left college and either moved away or had other responsibilities, didn't really want to carry on, so it kind of got passed to me, and it could very easily have just kind of died there actually, because that next year was when I went back to college, wasn't really sure what to do with it, and in the interim, like a guy who'd a percussionist who had been doing some stuff with us, was also friends with the manager of the venue where we were doing the night, and he said, "Oh, I know this guy, he's a really good hip-hop DJ who's like a local guy to Birmingham, who I'd never met before. He's like, oh, maybe you should introduce him to Chris, he could come and DJ at the night." And that was a guy called Rock One, and so we'd never even met before, we were just kind of thrown together. Like the guy who ran the venue was like, "Look, if you want to come back and do it, I know this guy, he's a really good DJ, you should do a thing together." And we were just doing like a weeknight, it was a Wednesday night I think, we were doing it weekly, and it was just like trying to get some kids down from the college to come and play, and some of his mates had come down as well, and we were just both really into hip-hop, and we just kind of hit it off, and then from that point onwards really like it became like a hip-hop night, you know.
Right.
We still used to play funk and stuff obviously, but like the focus was really like.
And what sort of time was that, or what?
That was like late 90s, we're talking like 97, 98 -ish.
Okay.
So it was at the boom time for like Raucous and the indie era and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So we were like typically playing like all the new indie releases, all the new Raucous stuff, all the new like, you know, Eastern Conference and all those like, you know, New York indie labels.
Yeah.
And then like a lot of kind of classic 90s hip hop, which at that point wasn't really even that old yet, you know.
No,
like,
that's right.
Stuff from kind of early 90s.
Yeah.
And then we'd do like specials where we'd play just funk and breaks and stuff. But.
And because I mean at that sort of time there was the resurgence, if you like, of like the b-boys sort of like coming back in. Like you'd had in '96 the first b-boy championships for X amount of time. You know what I mean? Was that sort of thing showing up at yours?
All of it was kind of relevant. Like, you know, and DJs like the Scratch Perverts were kind of getting to be like kind of main room club DJs as well, and we were kind of booking them quite early on in that sort of cycle.
Yeah.
So yeah, there was like the turntablism thing. We had b-boys coming down and stuff. We'd do graffiti stuff.
So it was all elements, if you like.
Yeah,
sort of
we
like
still
hip-hop
sort.
show.
So when we used to try and keep it was in a bar in an art centre. So we used to try and keep it quite. And next to the bar was this kind of warehouse bit, which was just like an empty room. So we'd like every now and again we'd board all that out. And people would come in and paint, and people would break in there and stuff. It was a big space. And we'd do live shows in there. We always used to have musicians as well. That was the one thing that we kind of did, which kind of
was different from
I think tied together like that kind of eclectic bit of jazz, bit of whatever kind of thing. The one thread of that remained was that we quite often had musicians come and do stuff with DJs, which today sounds like a bit of a cliche, like, you know, some guy in the corner banging bongos or whatever, but you know, like then actually it was quite an interesting idea.
Yeah, that's right.
And we ended up in late years actually having like a house band who always played on the stage on our Saturday nights.
Okay.
Eventually that space next to the bar that I was telling you about, where we used to put all the graffiti boards and stuff in, the bar were like, oh, we could maybe use that space all the time. And then they put a sound system in there, and then we moved in there, and we moved to a Thursday. And then eventually when I had left Birmingham, we moved to a Saturday, and then it changed again. Like we did a big Saturday night with a big guest and all the rest of it, monthly instead of weekly.
So you just go back,
and it just stepped it up a notch. Yeah, we did bigger shows, ticketed shows and all that sort of stuff, and I would run it from London, and I'd go back at least once a month, sometimes a couple of times a month, once to do the show and one other time to just go and play a little small gig and like take care of the tickets and collect money and drop off flyers and pay the guy who put the posters up and all that sort of stuff, you know. And
what sort of artists were you sort of like booking in, and what you know, who was there at the time?
Well, it started off when it was the Thursday nights. It was always DJs pretty much. So it was like sort of Scratch Perverts and DJ Pogo and all the sort of main UK scene sort of DJs really. And then we did odd one-offs, like we did stuff when like Vadim used to do those big tours with like Russian Percussion or whatever. They different branded tours. We did one with Swollen Members, I think it was, that he was touring with. And then when we moved to the Saturday, it was kind of like a bit of a balance. Like sometimes it was like a club DJ, you know, like one of those same sort of guys. But from the off we tried to make it a live thing. So like Finger Thing used to come and play live quite a lot.
Yeah.
So any of those like acts like that really for the Saturday night. But then, you know, eventually it became less like a club night and more like a concert. So it was like Far Side, I'm trying to think who else, KRS-One, Joe the Damager, Master Ace,
some heavy hitters.
And yeah, so it kind of morphed, and also like a lot of those kind of indie touring acts, Ugly Duckling, People Under the Stairs. Don't know, it was a good scene because there was us in Birmingham, there was No Faking in Liverpool, there was what's it called, Drive By, I think, in Bristol.
Right.
There was Scratch in London, obviously.
Yeah. And
pretty much whoever came to the UK would do
those.
That was their circuit, you know. It was just a given. So it just worked, you know. And then I guess eventually, when sort of some of those nights started dropping off, that little circuit kind of died out. But back then, it was just like everything was sorted out over the phone, and it was just like so and so's come in. You know, and it was it. You know, it was easy.
So did you get on well with the other guys who did these nights in different parts?
We used to speak loads, but we'd all kind of, you know, we all knew each other were. It was, you know, pre-Facebook and all that stuff, but we'd all pick up the phone to one another when we need. It was, but yeah, we'd all just pick up the phone to one another when things needed doing. But it's mostly done by an agent, but occasionally we'd talk about different stuff. And, you know.
What about the best? What was the best one?
I always say the same thing when people ask me that, but my most memorable show was we always used to get Finger Thing to come on our birthday.
Yeah.
So the 6th, 7th, 8th birthdays of the night, I think they played at all of them.
Yeah.
And we would have our house band, and then we'd have me and Rock DJ, and we'd always have 2 sets of turntables set up so we could hop back and forth.
Yeah.
And we had Mad Flow, who was our host, and they would come and do their show, and then we always used to try to do this. It didn't always work. We used to try to, at the end of the night, everyone would come on, so it'd be like the house band, me and the other DJ, Rock, the host, and whoever the guest was, and we'd just have a go at making something up on the spot, just like as a finale sort of thing, the last 5 minutes, and we'd have a bit of a mess around. Either someone would start off, you know, playing a drum loop, or someone would start off playing a bass line or whatever it was, and then we'd just all muck in, and it probably didn't always sound magical, but
it sounds awesome. It sounds like a good night.
In my mind, those are that's the kind of golden memory, you know, like when that really worked.
Yeah.
That was like a nice little moment, you know, when the magic happened and it was kind of unplanned. Yeah, so a different drummer and DJ Dick, who was part of Rocker Sci-Fi. He actually was working with the guy that was a guy called Adam Regan, who now runs a night called Left Foot and Hare and Hounds in Birmingham. But he was the manager of the venue where we used to do our club night.
Right.
So it was all kind of in the family sort of thing. So again, Adam introduced me to Dick, and he said, you know, really like you guys' night, and we've seen you DJ, and you know, you do all the turntables and stuff and what have you. It'd be great if you could translate some of that into a record. And you know, I sort of jumped at the chance. In my mind, I had kind of like the, you know, deep concentration comps where it was, you know, kind of really DJ led. But I didn't really have a clue about production, you know, at that time at all. But just from being at the night, people had given me demos, and there was people who'd come along and done our open mic nights and stuff. So I knew some producers, knew some vocalists, knew some rappers, knew some musicians. So I was just kind of, I was like, well, I probably know enough people that I can make it work, you know. So it was like the first record was like a compilation.
Right.
And I ended up producing about a quarter of it from nothing, really.
Yeah.
You know, bought a computer. Went and hung out for quite a long time with a guy called Mike, who used to produce under the name Circumstance, and he also ended up producing about a quarter of that record.
Right.
And I would just go to his house with a bunch of records that I thought would be good to sample, and we'd mess around, and then through watching him I kind of picked up a bit, and then I used to come home and try it myself, and gradually started to kind of learn how it was done, and that was my kind of intro. And so we put an album out called Lyric Super Brand, which was like a comp of some stuff I'd done, some stuff he'd done, and other people who were involved in Substance. So Different Drummer released it.
Sure.
Had really nice packaging. It was a double vinyl album. Sold okay. You know, it didn't make massive waves. There was a lot of really good stuff coming out around that time, like Unsung Heroes album, and all that. It was that. So it was like 2001, I think it was. And then after that, I just kind of went off. You know, the night finished not too long after that, like a couple of years later, or a few years later, and just sort of went into, you know, just made stuff on my own for quite a while after that, and got a bit sour with it really, because I'd landed on my feet by putting, like, the first few beats I ever made went out on that record. You know, I kind of like dived straight in at the. I went from not having done anything to putting a record out in from you know 0 to 60 and whatever. So I'd almost like I was like expecting, like, okay, next thing I'm gonna do, someone's gonna put that out, and you know, like, kind of thought that was just the way it was, and then obviously that's not the way it is. You know? I was mix DJ on the hip hop shows on One Extra, which was a mixed experience.
Really? In what way?
Well, to start off with, I really enjoyed it. It was a new thing, and I don't think they entirely were sure what they were going to do with it, but it was exciting because it was a BBC and then people were talking about it, and it was relatively free. So the first few things I did on there were like midweek mix shows, and it was literally just a Wednesday night or a Thursday night or something, turn up at 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, and DJ for 2 hours in a really nicely kitted out studio, just like you would do in a club, just doing a mix. They would do all the jingles and the adverts and all that stuff. And,
No talking.
Yeah, and then just play records you wanted to play in the mix, and that was super fun. And then after that, they were like, you know, you should really train as a presenter and all that sort of stuff. And I was pretty shy and a bit reluctant, but then, you know, like people like Excalibur he did a show on there, and so I started covering for him when he was away. And I think, to be honest with you, I was probably a little bit too influenced by the radio that I grew up listening to.
Yeah.
Like, in my mind, I had, like, you know, early Westwood and Max and Dave on Kiss and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. Terry Wogan. Jimmy Young.
So I wanted to play old stuff and new stuff and all that sort of stuff, and be a bit like, not like educational, but you know what I mean, like just. But
it's true. I mean, you know, when you know, obviously you're playing for other people, but you also want to give something that you like to them, and so it's difficult, I guess, isn't it?
But what I subsequently learned is that the best thing for radio, and what radio's best at, is being a place to air brand new music, and to air the stuff that you can't really play in a club, or you wouldn't play in a club. And I sort of wish I'd realised that sooner, because I think, like, I was a bit of an odd fit really with like most of the other stuff that was going on there, and I don't like, after a couple of years, I don't know, I obviously wasn't one of their priority DJs, but then I also think I probably wasn't towing the line very well. Like, I was, towards the end I was doing their Saturday night mix show, and I was on a rotation with guys like Cameo, who were playing like grime and UK garage, and you know, doing really upfront stuff, and like maybe, I forget who it was at the time, but whoever the kind of flagship drum and bass DJ was, you know. And then there's me, like, playing older stuff and a bit of new stuff and a bit of weird stuff that no one really knew what it was, and
some Japanese stuff.
So yeah, I mean, I think the last show I ever did, funny enough, we were talking about the Smiths earlier, one of the last shows you ever did, I played a Smiths record on One Extra on a Saturday night.
A hip hop show.
Yeah.
I think that's brilliant.
And the producer said to
like
me,
the Smiths.
She sort of looked at me and she was like, "Oh, you're actually playing that?"
Oh, you're trying to get fired.
And she said, no, it literally, yeah. She said, like, if the station managers tune in and hear that playing now, you're going to be in trouble, you know. And a couple of weeks later, I left.
And you still like the Smiths?
I had loads of jingles.
Well, do you remember any?
Yeah, I mean,
Chris Reed.
that was one of the best things. Because I still use them, just to edit it out the bit where it says 1 extra. But no, that was the best thing about it was whenever anyone came through the studio, so whether it's like Chuck D or Blackthorpe from the Roots or whoever it is,
You're tuned into Chris Reed.
They get him in a booth and they give him a list of names and they just rattle them out.
Right.
And then you get a mini disc. A mini disc of it on. Oh, so brilliant. I've got well, it's not my favourite because of the artist, but it's my favourite because it's funny. Is the Beanie Man one? Yeah. Because he actually sings my name. So.
Oh, awesome.
But yeah, I've got loads. Like Chuck D one in particular brought tears to my eye the first time I heard that.
Yeah.
having listened to Takes a Nation of Millions on my headphones on the way to school for.
And then you listen to your name being said by him.
So yeah, so it was good. Mixed, like I said, mixed experience, but I'm glad I did it.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, a few years ago, I was number 17. It was either the top 100 DJs or top 100 mixes, one or the other. But anyway, and this year I got. Am I allowed to show off?
Of course you are.
Yeah.
This year I got 3 places in the top 100.
Really?
For 3 mixes. Yeah.
7. Number 7, something, and 43, something in the 30s, I think it was, maybe, or 20s.
Oh, wow.
Wicked.
That's phenomenal.
I'm pretty chuffed about that.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
The diary mix, 897,000 tracks in one mix.
Yeah,
something like that, wasn't it?
801. Exactly.
Jesus.
In an 80-minute mix. Yeah.
How long did that take to work out?
It took about 2 years. No, that makes it sound like I just sort of went and hid somewhere for 2 years and did it.
We've been trying to put a mix out for 2 years.
It was 2 years between when I started and when I finished, but I didn't really work on it that much.
Were you on Record Breakers?
No, I wasn't. I think some bloke's done a techno mix with like 1,000 records in it.
Oh, really?
But anyway,
I don't care.
Won't worry about that. Yeah, from this time I started to the time I put it out was 2 years, but I didn't really work on it. It was like the odd evening, the odd Sunday afternoon.
Was the intention to make a mix with that many tracks at the beginning of the 2 years, or was it just something?
No. The intention was, because I've done a few mixtapes and they were all like really varied, sort of all over the shop sort of affairs, but at the time I was DJing mostly hip hop, so occasionally people would say, "Oh, why don't you do a mixtape that's hip hop?" But there was just so many that are kind of so forgettable. I just thought, right, if I'm going to do this, I need to make it really like something really special about it, something really that people won't forget. And I didn't really intend to do it for it to come out the way it did until I'd started doing it. So I remember it really clearly. It was just like I was at a weekend evening and didn't have anything planned, and I thought, right, I'm going to just put out some records and do something with this. And just went to a bit of the collection where there was a few records that I thought would be good, and started doing a little intricate sort of little chop up of different stuff. And it was all stuff that came out in '91, just more or less by coincidence. And I thought, oh, hang on, maybe I should do a whole little section in the mix that's all stuff from that year. So I did that, and it was about 4 minutes long, and it had like 30 different tracks all chopped up into it. And then I didn't really know what to do next, and I just thought, well, maybe I'll just do that again and again. So I did another one for like '92 or whatever. Yeah. And it started coming together, and then at that point the penny dropped, and I thought, oh, this can just be what it is. That's like a good idea. That's a really good idea. So then I kind of went back and I did the early bits, did the 88 bits, and I jumped around with it quite a lot, like just to keep it interesting. Did a couple of the 80s ones, then did some of the late 90s ones, then went back and slowly started to like jigsaw it all together. And then then like once I got about half to 2/3 the way through it, I was like, oh my god, what have I started? This is going to just be, it's going to take forever. And I left it alone for about 6 months because I got absolutely sick of hearing it. And then I thought, come on, like, you've done most of the hard work, get it done. And I finished it and got some great artwork done with my friend John Brotherhood. And we made a booklet that had all the tracks listed in it that came with this, we did a CD and a booklet that came with it. And people went nuts for it. But the reason there's 801 is that about a month before, after all that work, about a month before I'd finished it, some other guy put out a mix that was the exact same idea.
No!
Supposedly having 800 tracks in it.
Yeah.
He must have got wind.
A guy called Jaguar Skills. He does a lot of stuff on Radio 1. He does a lot of like mash-up-y sort of stuff and all that kind of thing. Yeah. Being the nerd that I am, I've actually listened to his one with the track list in front of me, and I could only find about 600 and something, but I might have missed some stuff. Anyway, just to be sure, because this one said it had 800 in it, and it may well do. I'm not saying he's lying. I just did 801 just to be. Yeah. So BBE, been with BBE for about 3 years now. I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that started life as doing mixtape stuff. I mean, like I kind of had a bit of a following for mixtape stuff. Yeah. So I did a mix album for them for their 15th anniversary. Actually, no, before that even I did a mix album for the Beat Generation 10th anniversary.
Yeah.
And that was kind of a bit of an add-on. It had already been done. Spinner and Mr. Thing had done it for the CD version.
Yeah.
But they wanted like a bonus for the digital version. So if you get the digital version, you get a mix from Spinner, Mr. Thing, and the one that I did.
Yeah, okay.
And that was like the foot in the door, really. And then I did the double CD for the 15th anniversary.
Right.
Which is possibly the favourite mix I've ever done, actually.
Really?
It's really eclectic. It's quite a lot of hip hop in there, but it's lots of other stuff as well. Like BB puts out like great disco, house,
totally,
jazz, all sorts. And it's like it's probably the most attention to detail I've put into a mix in terms of just everything being like really fluid and sort of. And it's a double CD with loads of variety and loads of good music. And yeah, so did that for them, and then yeah, that went down well. And I've done a couple of bits since. I did off the back of that, then I did a comp of my own, which is a comp of like modern Latin stuff called Latin Concrete, and I've done a couple of mixes like digi-only things. Like I did a mix for Private Wax, which was like a rare disco comp that Zaf's Music compiled.
Right.
And a few bits like that. I did their best of 2013 mix album as well.
Right.
But just having done through doing the mix stuff, I've then started to produce stuff for them as well. So done a bunch of remixes for some of the other artists on the label. And yeah, and I've got two things. Well, one of my own, which is a comp that's coming out in the summer, which is like mostly my remixes of other BBE artists on a compilation. And then I'm producing a band called Maylite, which is like a sort of jazz, soul, electronica sort of thing.
With the female vocalists.
Yeah, so it's with Lizzie Parks is the singer. She's done a couple of albums.
It's on your CD as well, isn't she? You've done a track
she's
with
got a track on my album as well.
Yeah. Can't see it there.
Yeah, and a bunch of really good musicians. Rob Barron, who played on my album as well, he's just incredible on the keys. So he does all the synth stuff on there, and then we've got like a small horn section, which is 3 different people been involved in that. And yeah, Mary, who plays sax, is the girl who put the band together in the first place. So.
Right, okay. Fantastic.
Lots going on.
You're a busy man, aren't you?
That's for later in the year, yeah.
Doing a Smiths cover.
Yeah. And we are going to probably do a Smiths cover of that very song, so it all kind of... Yeah,
it all comes round.
You'll send it to Radio 1.
If we got that record played on One Extra, that would just be cherry on the cake.
That would be brilliant. If you're listening, One Extra.
Yeah. So, yeah, Classic Materials started about 3 years ago.
Okay, and there's quite a few big collaborators, isn't there?
Yeah, so we... it started life as a kind of spin-off from the diary thing, really. Yeah. This whole like year-by-year idea and all the rest of it. So when I put that CD out, I did a couple of nights at just a little bar around the corner from where I live, where I DJ for friends and stuff. Just playing like, you know, only early 90s stuff or only late 80s stuff or only whatever, you know, just in little... Did a few like just midweek things, just for fun, just playing stuff from different eras, you know. Yeah. And it kind of got me thinking like, oh, maybe we could do a club night that's you know, like a proper night that's like this, you know, but actually narrow it down to only play stuff from particular years. And kind of around the time when I was thinking about doing that, I stumbled upon this night in Germany called Rap History, who were doing that exact thing, you know, and had been doing it for quite a while. And in fact, I think they'd maybe even run the series once already in another city. They were doing it in Berlin, but I think they'd done it in Vienna or somewhere beforehand. Right. Anyway, I went out to Berlin and I DJ'd at one of their nights, doing the 91, which oddly enough was where the mix started, was the 91 stuff. But anyway, I went and played at their 91 night, and it was just wicked fun. Like, it was kind of crowd was kind of nerdy and like, you know, looking for the records and that, but also just yeah, but then also people were just into it and dancing, and it was kind of like, oh wow, you can just go quite deep and play stuff from this year, you know, like, because you've got to play from only 1 year all night, it's like, it's not just all the obvious hits, it's like album tracks and weird stuff and all the rest of it. So yeah, it was just super fun. And after doing that, I was like, oh, we've got to do this in London. So that same summer, I DJ'd at a night called Drop In Science, which a friend of mine, Nick, was running, and we hadn't even met before then. He just booked me because he knew of me or whatever, and we got on really well, and I liked the way they ran the night. So I got chatting to Nick, and I was like, oh, I had this idea to do this night, do you want to get involved? And he was up for it. And then John, who'd done quite a few of my like CD cover designs, stuff like that, he's a really, really good designer. So I was like, oh, we need a good designer. So we got John involved, and then Classic Material kind of became the three of us then, really. So me and Nick would DJ, I'd do the mixtapes, John would do the design work, Nick and I between us would sort out all like the, because we made all these products to go every night. We did a box set with a t-shirt and a,
but that's good because that gives something more, doesn't it, to the person who's turning
so
up.
we wanted it to be memorable, you know. It was always going to be a night that was just about DJing, so it wasn't going to be about live performance. It was going to be just about playing the records and playing the music. But we wanted to the thing I learned from doing the Substance nights was like, it's great, you put all this effort in, but like once the night's happened, it's gone. It's sort of just gone forever. So that's why we wanted to do these box sets. It's like, you know, we wanted, it's like once we've done the nights, it can still kind of live on in like, there's going to be a CD, there's going to be a mix, and there's going to be like, and we archived them all on the Classic Material website, so you can still go there and you can see all the products and you can listen to all the mixes. And yeah, so it kind of like, even beyond the club night, so we ran that for 14 months. So we went through from the late 70s through to 2000. Yeah, like even beyond that now, you kind of, it still lives on in various forms. And then off the back of that, we then started doing like collaborations on new products. So we did the following year, John, who did all the design work for the logos, is also the manager and buyer at Foot Patrol. So we did a collaboration with Foot Patrol. And we licensed some of Normski's photographs, and we did these t-shirts with the Normski black and white portrait shots.
Because they were fantastic. I mean, were you aware, obviously, of the Normski photos like before?
Oh, yeah.
Because obviously a lot of them were in Hip Hop Connection.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
The editions,
all the magazine stuff that he'd done, and I was an avid viewer of Dance Energy and Def 2, and they would used to have the bit when the guests came on, they would do the snapshot and stuff. So.
That's it.
And yeah, so Normski DJ'd for a friend of mine in Birmingham actually, so I kind of knew he was still around. I hadn't seen him, didn't know him personally, but hadn't seen. I used to see him at events occasionally and stuff, and I hadn't seen him for ages around. But I knew he was still about because he DJ'd this thing, so I got in contact with him through that, and then we started talking, and we licensed the photos and did the thing. And
I've been meaning to buy one of those photos. I will do one day.
Yeah, so we've got the now we did 2 seasons of t-shirts. We did a launch party for each of those, and we this year actually we did a pop-up shop in Soho. We had a shop for a week. Really? On Berwick Street. Yeah. So we had all the photos displayed, all the t-shirts. Did a launch party in there. It's nice to have a little shop, you know, to shop of our own in the heart of Soho for a week. It's like, you know.
Don't think you're doing one in South Arrow, no?
So we did all that, and yeah, and it just keeps on moving, really. Like this year, we're talking about maybe doing a book.
Wicked, that would be
fantastic. That's the next project.
I think that's important as well for that sort of stuff to be archived properly and done right.
So we're talking to publishers at the moment, and we'll see what happens with that. Probably won't happen overnight, but you know, it's
you are a busy man.
You are a busy man. You really are. No wonder it took a year to come in this year.
I can understand. I feel guilty. Right, the album. Let's get on to the important business.
And also Breaking Bread, I guess. Cause,
So Breaking Bread I've been with for a couple of years now. Kind of overlaps pretty much with the same time period I've been with BBE, but just with a bit of a different focus. So this is more like my own productions that I've, for the most part, done entirely on my own, although for the album there's quite a few collaborators, but the first few singles at least were mostly me, and then in the later ones had some people do some live stuff. A guy called Charles Barrett plays guitar on it, and then vocalists, Phil Most Chill and Miles Sanko, and the two most recent ones. But the earlier ones were kind of all my work, and they're kind of just everything that I was doing that wasn't really hip hop or anything else really. So there's I don't want to call it world music because that kind of puts it in a bit of a nasty
Giles
box.
Peterson sort of.
Or worse still, those kind of like, you know, it's kind of bad panpipe things with horrible covers, tie-dye covers on them. But anyway, so it's not
Manuel and his Songs of the Mountains or whatever.
So not world music, but I did a kind of Latin thing, and I think it was kind of Afrobeat influenced, and then another kind of Latin / jazz influenced thing. And the album is kind of a lot of that kind of gear. And there's also some like funk soul sort of stuff on there, and there's a track with Lizzie Parks, which is a sort of like downbeat modern soul with a bit of a twist sort of thing.
Yeah.
And just a mixture of all sorts of stuff really, you know, found sounds.
Well, it looks awesome, and the tracks that we've heard, obviously, and we've heard a couple of them because this is the last album, and they sound fantastic. I have to say, they sound really, really good. How did you get involved with Breaking Bread in the first place? Obviously, you know, I mean, they were another big hip hop night in London. Obviously, we've you know, Skeg. We've interviewed him before and stuff, and I've known him for years. But I mean, how did you sort of get into that?
I'd played at Breaking Bread a few times in the heyday, like in amongst that time I was talking about, actually, when like we were all promoting the nights and we all knew each other. Like Rock and I had come down to London a couple of times to play at Breaking Bread back in the days when it was in the Arches. Where was that? Near London Bridge somewhere.
That's right. Yeah.
And then later on, when it was at the Rhythm Factory, I think, down by Aldgate.
With
so
2 or 3 rooms.
So we'd played at the club night a few times. So I'd known Skeg for a number of years, and I think he got in touch with me and said, did I want to come on and do his radio show? And I'd just been sort of quietly making these kind of Latin beat sort of things, and like as a, I can't remember which tracks I'd done first actually. One of the Latin things, and there's like a sort of dub thing I'd done, and also I think the track with Lizzie Parks, although maybe she hadn't done the vocal at that point. I can't remember, it might have been an instrumental at that point. But anyway, I just had a few bits and bobs I'd been tinkering away with at home, and I took them along to the radio show. And when we were done messing around playing records, I said, "Oh, well, you know, there's some CD with a few bits I've been doing. Like, you know, have a listen and see if it's up your alley." And he's like, "Oh, the upbeat ones, we could maybe put them on a 7. You know, that sounds all right." So took the Latin one, did a rework of it, and we did a single, and it went pretty well. And then we just carried on doing more, and now we've done 5, I think. And then the album's like a sort of natural place to just sort of round that off, because it's like the only stuff that could go on the 7 were the upbeats ones, but at the same time I'd done a few like downbeat ones, and a few like alternate like long versions that were too long to put on the 7. So the album really is like all the best bits off the singles, plus like all the other stuff that I'd been doing around the same time that wasn't really suitable for the 7s, and a couple of new bits as well. So
can we also talk briefly before we go about this rather lovely,
because we've played it on
that
the
we've
show.
already played on the show, and obviously it's on Breaking Bread as well, but obviously this is a little bit of a departure from what's coming out on your album.
Well, it's on the album actually as well.
Oh, is it?
It's on the album, it's a mixed bag, so there's no like definitive theme to the album. It really is like a whole lot of different stuff. I guess the theme, if any, is that it's like it's all kind of sample based and kind of quite analog sounding. But don't let me stop you from talking about it if you want to.
No, I'm just saying, because it's a wicked track and we've already played it, obviously, and we haven't actually explained it, but the Chris Reed with Phil Most Chill, I mean, did you meet him, or was it one of those relationships that he was in New York, you were over here?
Did you Skype?
It was,
Hi, Phil.
He was just a guy I met on the internet.
He liked your English accent. He's a big fan of Downton Abbey.
No, we just got in touch through Facebook, the usual thing, really, you know. Obviously, you know, a fan of his work, and I'd done a kind of quite throwbacky hip hop instrumental that I wanted some vocal on, and Yeah, and he's an absolute pro. Like, he, you know, dashed it out in record time, and it perfect recording, and sent me everything I needed straight away, and then quickly worked it up and put the cuts in and just did the arrangement. And yeah, it was done in record time. Really, it was a really easy record to do.
Brilliant.
Right.
Yeah, he's a total pro, and people really liked it.
It's
like,
wicked.
It's
so good.
I think more so than any of the other singles. Actually, it was like topping all the bestsellers lists on Juno and all that sort of stuff. So I think it was in a couple of end of year top 10s and that sort of stuff. So generally well received all round, really. Yeah.
It is a corker.
He has worked. He's worked with so many English producers. It seems to work, doesn't it? The old English producer.
Yeah, I mean, he was doing the album with Format at the same time as we did that. So it's amazing to me that he
did such quality work on both.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly that. Yeah, I suppose, really. So go and buy the album on March the 3rd if that hasn't happened already.
Yeah.
So March the 3rd is yesterday. Yesterday. So it's out now.
It's out now
on Breaking Bread, and you can buy it at.
Yeah, just search. Well, you can buy it. Just search for Chris Reed Small Steps, and you should find lots of places online.
Yeah,
it's on iTunes, obviously, for digital folks, and Kudos are distributing it. Yeah. And other than that, you can keep up to date with.
You can't get it on vinyl, but you can get most of the stuff on vinyl already.
Yeah, you can get
about half of it is probably available as singles on vinyl if you're a vinyl only person.
Yeah.
The CD's got
with the lovely artwork.
Beautiful artwork.
Yeah.
CD has 3 kind of bonus tracks on it, and if you buy the digital bundle, you get the 11 tracks plus the bonus ones thrown in if you buy it all together. So
cool.
Oh yeah, look, track 12, Chris Reed with panpipes doing Windmills of Your Mind. Because it is world music.
in a Demi Roussos poncho.
That's only on your
Chris Reed
on
and
your
the Tijuana Brass.
Nice. Anything in the works, if you like.
There's a few actually. Well, yeah, there's in the next. I don't know if I've got a release date for it yet. Not yet, but in the next month or so, I'm doing a 7-inch, which is a collaboration with Delicious Vinyl and BBE.
Nice.
Which is remixes of Far Side. It's a gatefold double 7-inch.
Oh, nice.
On clear vinyl.
I'm going to be getting one of those.
Yep, me too.
Which is very nice, and it's got a subtle reworking of Running with some good musician friends of mine replaying the various parts of the original.
Fantastic.
You heard it here first.
Yeah.
Which is going to look and hopefully sound ace.
Yeah, I'm sure it will.
And then I've got a few remixes in the pipeline for BBE, which I can't say who they're for yet because they're not all signed off, but a couple of quite big artists for BBE.
Right.
Remixes come in, and then in the summer, my remix compilation, and then end of the year, the stuff with Maylite with the band. So it's going to be
a
single, an album, and probably another single. But the first single is going to be huge. It's got like 10 remixes on it. It's going to be almost like an album of its own. So
fantastic.
So what about club nights coming up?
I'm DJing most weekends. I'm not really promoting.
It's Classic Material Night on the 13th of March in there with Gift the Gab. No?
Yes, there is.
Yeah.
Yes, I should be plugging that. Yes,
I'm on it.
So yeah, Classic Material lives on in its new home at the Jazz Cafe.
Yeah.
Which is not like a monthly thing, but occasional. So we did one with Akil from Jurassic 5 about a month ago, and the next one is mid-March with Gift the Gab from Blackalicious.
Wicked.
Yeah.
Well,
cool.
Me and Brad will come along with that.
Yeah. It's a Thursday night, isn't it?
It's yes, it's Thursday night. Yeah.
That's all right.
We'll be there. Yeah. Cracking, mate. It's been a real pleasure.
It really has been a pleasure, I have to say. Yeah, really good. Right, let's get back to some more tunes.
Playing some records,
Well, I never knew that.
Oh, I've learnt so much.
So what's this, Chris?
This is a track called Mambo Jazz Del Pito. This was the third single I did for Breaking Bread. And it features Giles Barrett on guitar.
And who's on piano?
I am.
Oh,
really? Yeah. Never knew that.
He's a man of many talents, this guy. I'm telling you, I love this track. I mean, it's absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, it's kind of like a mambo-ish, Latin jazz sort of, usually sort of thing.
But the mood to it is really good. You know, really, very nice.
And you can also find out on the album, of course.
There you go.
There you go.
So hopefully all of you out there watching will have already ordered this album because it's so bloody good and you've heard 3 tracks so far, so there you go.
Yeah, this is lovely.
This is a killer track.
Yeah, nice bit of Blue Note.
Yeah.
Ronnie Laws.
Yeah, all that 70s, all the gear from that era on Blue Note is pretty much flawless.
So good, isn't it? Yeah.
Under the watchful eye of the Mazel brothers and
that's right.
Like.
Yeah. Bandabby Dozzy, folks, I have to say. Obviously there's the jazz funk classic Always There on this and a host of other great tunes, but brilliant track this.
Yeah, it's a nice, easy to find one that, but it's yeah, that tune's just a personal all-time favourite really. So.
Cool. Lovely.
Coming up next, we've got something from an album we played the other week, and obviously we mentioned that track because it's a famous track on the album.
Yeah. But yeah.
Isn't this lovely though?
This is lovely, yeah.
You see
Organised Confusion used this bit
Oh
coming up, didn't they?
yeah, that's right.
The little horn line bit. This bit here.
Yeah.
I can't remember what on, something off the first album, but anyway.
It's probably in the holy book of hip hop that I've got up here actually, so we could actually look it up in a minute.
Well, you could just go to the samples.
You could do that.
Whatever. Anyway, we're going to another bit of Blue Note now. And yeah, obviously, Caveman played a great track off of this next album a couple of weeks back, and we're playing another one this week. And why not? Yep.
So it's third flute number of the evening.
We like a bit of flute.
Obviously, guests in the shed like Bobby Humphries though.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just brought it because it's one of my, well, yeah, it's pretty in my top 5 favourite albums of all time.
It's
really.
so good. Again,
And,
the Mazel brothers, isn't it? You know what I mean? It's just brilliant.
And it's not a bad track on it, so yeah, you know, why not?
Well, I've noticed, Chris, is all your albums are very clean, mate, aren't they?
Yeah, well, I don't
look after your stuff, mate.
Yeah, well, some of them are.
Did you come in here and freak out at the state of the shed? So, oh my god!
Well, I'll be honest with you, I'm a bit of a, you know, I very rarely spend a lot of money on records, so quite often I buy, you know, the stuff that's cheap and in terrible condition.
So do I.
Yeah, you know, but a good album like this is worth spending money on having
totally.
a good quality copy of it. So.
Definitely. Yeah, obviously, famously nabbed by Jazzy Jeff on A Touch of Jazz.
And all sorts of people.
Yeah, loads
Smith
of people.
and Wesson, was it? I think,
Yeah, loads. I think he went into a few other genres as well, didn't it? So, great. We're actually going to hop, skip and jump right back to Ronnie Laws again now, so here we go.
Yeah.
Bit of flute.
Again. Oh, it's getting pretty late, so...
I can just imagine a nice quiet evening around Chris Reed's house. There's a flute on.
Well, did you come in?
Well, hello.
Log fire.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I bought this for a reason, which is because it's been sampled on Youngster's Hip Hop Bride remix, which, as I told you earlier, was a record that I asked everyone under the sun what the sample for it was. Literally
for how long?
For about 8 years, every notable mixtape sample DJ who I knew, who might know what it was, and they're like, oh, I don't know what it is. Amir finally said, I think it might be Ronnie Laws. And having heard him say that, I went to get the record out just to listen to it again. And
it's written on it.
and it's written on the label. Seriously? So I felt like a right idiot.
Yeah, after Bismarck E got famously stung, they had to list all of their samples, didn't they? So
and I immediately went and bought a copy for £5 from
a bluey. There you go.
From JP. So thanks, JP.
Fantastic. Let's go to the people who stole it.
Sounds familiar.
Doesn't it? Very nice.
Nice cover.
Yeah. Was Pete's apparently at some point.
Pete's or Speets. Wicked.
You can find this on Classic Material Volume 8, I think.
There you go.
The 1994 one, anyway, whatever number that is.
Fantastic.
Yeah, we're dealing with a bit more up tempo and no flute.
No flutes on this.
No flute. Wicked track. And what is this?
This is The Magic Is Gone, which is the most recent single from the album. It just came out about 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago.
Cool.
And you can find it on the album again, and 7 inches out now as well if you haven't got one or want to get one. And Miles Sanko on vocals.
Yeah, it's cracking vocals, I have to say. And obviously you get the instrumental on the B-side as well, which is like a really good funk instrumental as well, you know what I mean? So you get
the instrumental is not just an instrumental, it's a different version. It's got Hammond where the vocals would be, so it's like a different...
A man is speaking with his hands almost.
Yeah, and that man is Rob Barron, so thank you Rob for being really awesome. Yeah. So yeah, Miles Sanko and the So Much Soul Players, which is a little thrown together thing, which is Giles Barron on guitar, Rob on keys, and Joe Egan on horns. So,
well, for someone who's thrown something together, you've done pretty well.
Yeah,
that's a wicked track.
Yeah, nice little dance story thing, and a killer Hammond solo at the end.
Cool. Try and wait out that long, shall we? Yeah.
It's entirely up to you.
No, I think we should. I think we should as well.
So, just to recap, you can get the album now. It came out yesterday on Breaking Bread. It's $8.99. I've seen that already. And $6.99 on download, yeah?
I think so, yeah, or thereabouts, yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Cheap.
Well under a tenner anyway.
That's right.
Well under a tenner. What can you get for a tenner these days, eh?
Not a lot.
So, yeah, and this is also out at the moment. You can still get this.
You can still get this, yeah, it's been out for 3 or 4 weeks, and you can find out all the usual spots. Just search for Chris Reed, Magic Is Gone, if you want to find that one.
Cool.
And, yeah, check out Chris on what site's the best one to check out these days?
Musicofsubstance.com is my own website, and from there you can find all my social stuff, Facebook and Twitter and all of that. Yeah, there's the blog on there as well, and classicmaterial.co.uk for the hip hop stuff, so much soul.co.uk for the funk and soul stuff, who sampled for the day job stuff. Yeah.
You are one busy man, I have to say.
I'm a lucky man in show business.
Yeah.
There you go.
There you go, we got there.
Nice, we got to the Hammond.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Real pleasure.
Thank you. Love the shed, yeah.
Love the shed, there you go.
We didn't make him say that. Cool.
Cracking.
Right.
We'll catch you next week.
See you later. I'm just trying to get this sticker off.
It's hard, isn't it?
There we go.
I've got nails too.
I should be able to, a number of these I've stuck on our things. I should be able to do it in my sleep, but fucking hell. Maybe because they're cold. Need to warm them up a little bit.
Down on this side.
Jesus Christ. They haven't even got those things at the back, have they?
What are you up to tomorrow? Just looking to see. Yeah.
It's make for riveting viewing.
Yeah. Is this going to be in the bloopers episode?
There you go.
Oh, Chris Williams.